Imagine you are walking through a forest 50,000 years ago. There is no Google, no warning labels, no wildlife guide. You see an animal you have never seen before. How do you know if it will kill you or ignore you? This is the question that shaped human survival. And the answer is nothing short of remarkable. Ancient humans had no books to read from. No elders who had written down which creatures were safe and which were deadly. They had to learn by watching, by listening, by paying attention to the smallest details in a world that was trying to kill them. And somehow, they figured it out. The story begins with observation. Ancient humans were extraordinary observers. They had to be. A mistake meant death. So they watched animals constantly. They noticed patterns. A deer that ran toward the forest was easy prey. A deer that stood still and listened meant something was wrong. A big cat with its ears forward was curious. A big cat with its ears flat back was about to attack. These were not accidents. These were patterns. The human brain evolved specifically to read animal behavior. Scientists call it theory of mind. It is the ability to look at another creature and understand what it is thinking, what it wants, what it is about to do. Humans are exceptional at this, better than any other species on the planet. When you see an animal's body, you can read its mood. A raised tail means confidence. A lowered tail means fear. Ears forward means interest. Ears back means anger. Teeth showing means warning. These signals exist in almost every animal. And ancient humans learned to speak this language without anyone teaching them. They learned by watching their own families. Children watched their parents hunt. They watched which animals their parents approached and which ones they avoided. They learned from stories told around fires. An elder would describe a bear encounter, how the bear moved, how it sounded, what the hunter did to survive. These stories were not entertainment, they were survival lessons passed from generation to generation. But there was something even more powerful than stories. There was fear. Ancient humans who felt fear around certain animals lived longer. The ones who walked up to a cave lion without caution did not pass on their genes. Natural selection favored the humans who had healthy fear, who treated powerful predators with respect, who understood that some animals could end your life in seconds. This is not learned behavior. This is written into our DNA. Stand a small child in front of a snake and they will often react with instant caution. They have never seen a snake before. Nobody told them snakes were dangerous. But something inside them recognizes the threat. This instinct comes from thousands of generations of humans who survived because they were afraid of snakes. The same is true for spiders and heights and certain sounds. But instinct alone was not enough. Ancient humans developed systems for reading animal danger. The first system was sound. Certain animals made sounds that meant they were upset. A dog growling, a cat hissing, a bear huffing. These sounds were universal warnings. The sound itself was enough to make ancient humans move away. A snake that rattled was saying, "Stay back." A bird that shrieked was saying, "Predator nearby." An elephant that trumpeted was saying, "Move away or die." Ancient humans learned to listen, and more importantly, they learned to act on what they heard before ever seeing what made the sound. The second system was size. Large animals were generally more dangerous than small animals. This was obvious. But ancient humans also learned something more complex. A large animal that was aggressive was even more dangerous than a small aggressive animal. The power scaled up. A large cat with a bad mood was the most dangerous thing in the forest. So humans learned to respect size. They gave large animals space. They did not approach them for no reason. They understood that power matters. The third system was teeth. Humans looked at what an animal ate and understood what it could do to you. An animal with flat teeth ate plants and was generally less aggressive. An animal with sharp teeth ate meat and was built to kill. This was logical. Humans understood that teeth were tools. Tools for eating. And if they were sharp for a reason. A deer had flat teeth. A lion had razors. This difference was everything. The fourth system was speed. Ancient humans learned which animals could outrun them and which ones could not. Prey animals were usually fast. Predators were usually faster. When an ancient human saw an animal that moved quickly and deliberately, they understood they could not escape by running. So they would make themselves small. They would hide. They would use their intelligence instead of their legs. When they saw an animal that was slower, they understood they had options. They could run if needed. They could attack if necessary. Speed told the story of what the animal was built to do. But here is where it gets really interesting. Ancient humans learned to read behavior that had nothing to do with the animal at all. They learned to read context. A lion that was hunting was not the same as a lion that was resting. A bear that was protecting cubs was not the same as a bear that was alone. An animal with an empty stomach was more dangerous than an animal that had just eaten. They learned these things by watching closely. Over decades, over generations, over thousands of years, humans observed that territorial animals were more dangerous near their home. Animals traveling alone were different from animals in groups. A young animal without its mother behaved differently than an adult. A sick animal was unpredictable. All of these variables shaped how ancient humans approached or avoided different creatures. They also learned something about themselves. Ancient humans understood that how you moved mattered. If you moved like prey, you would be treated like prey. If you moved with confidence, many animals would leave you alone. They learned to make themselves look bigger when threatened. They learned to make loud noises to scare animals away. They learned that showing fear would often trigger an animal's hunting instinct. So they learned to hide fear. They learned this through trial and error, and the errors often came at a cost. But the humans who survived the errors passed the knowledge on. This knowledge became culture, became stories, became the way a tribe raised its children. There is evidence of this in burial sites. Archaeologists have found ancient graves with signs of animal attacks, claw marks on bones, teeth punctures, injuries that would have been agonizing. But the humans survived the attack. They recovered. They lived years afterward before eventually dying from something else. This tells us something profound. Ancient humans were not always killed by dangerous animals. Sometimes they survived. And if they survived, they had a story to tell. They knew exactly what the animal had done. They could describe it to others. They could explain how they escaped. The humans who survived encounters became teachers. They became the elders who knew which bears to avoid during which seasons, which big cats hunted at night, which predators were solitary and which hunted in packs, which areas of the forest were more dangerous during certain times of year. This knowledge saved lives. Modern science has confirmed what ancient humans intuitively understood. Predators do have hunting preferences. They do hunt at certain times. They do avoid certain areas. They do change their behavior based on their hunger level and the presence of their young. What ancient humans did was remarkable because they developed this knowledge without any of the tools we have today. No cameras, no tracking devices, no scientific method, just observation, memory, stories, and the constant pressure of survival. They learned that some animals wanted to be left alone and would leave you alone in return. These were the deer, the elk, the wild boar, dangerous if cornered but willing to flee if given the chance. They learned that some animals were curious. These were the more intelligent creatures, the primates that watched humans back, the bears that were interested in what humans had. They learned to be cautious around curious animals because curiosity sometimes led to conflict. And they learned that some animals saw humans only as food or threat. The big cats, the hyenas, the pack hunters. These required respect, distance, weapons, strategy. The knowledge flowed through cultures like rivers through a landscape. A mother held her child's hand and pointed, "That one there, that one kills. See the teeth? See how it watches? That one is safe. See how it runs. That one will only eat plants," over and over, generation after generation. The child learned the language of animal danger and survived because of it. Today we live in cities. We have no need for this knowledge. We order food. We have walls and roofs and locks. We have forgotten the language that kept our ancestors alive. But it is still in us. Go to a zoo. Watch a small child when a large predator appears. The child will often show caution without being taught. The ancient knowledge is still there, encoded in our bodies, in our instincts, in the parts of our brain that remember when reading an animal correctly meant the difference between living and dying. That is how ancient humans knew, not from books or signs or guides, but from watching, from learning, from paying attention, from understanding that every animal has a story written in its body, in its movements, in its eyes. And if you learn to read that story, you can survive. Ancient humans learned to read, and that skill shaped everything that came after.